Roseann Lake is a U.S. author. She has an upcoming book on the social and economic strength of China's trailblazing female urban elite. And I asked her about the pressure to marry as the next step after college or getting a job.
Yes, absolutely, Elaine. In China, marriage is still seen very much as a rite of passage. Unless you're married and unless you've done it at a relatively young age, you're not really considered a proper adult. There's sort of this mandate that sort of the most unfilial thing that you can do is to not give your parents a grandchild, not give them, not give them the ability to bao sunzi. And so it is quite a challenge, and it's something that, parents get very nervous about. They retire quite young in China, and they spend a lot of time in parks with, other people with children in their, in their 20s, and people start to talk. Neighbors start to chat. Oh, how was your son? How was your daughter? Is she married? And, the pressure kind of accumulates. And so those parents with unmarried children then pass it on to their kids who may be living in other cities, perhaps bigger cities where timelines are pushed back a bit, but that tension still does very much exist.
So what kind of matchmaking services, websites, or apps are the most popular right now? What sort of clients are they seeing? Do they even have a high success rate?
Well, the success rate I'm not so sure about. I can tell you all the way from sort of the grassroots level. So you kind of have, one nervous mom who talks to a neighbor, who talks to an auntie, who talks to another neighbor, and she gets together what would traditionally be known as a matchmaker, right? And then, of course, for those who are proactively looking to get married, there are all sorts of services. There are apps, there are online dating platforms. CGTN is a very popular one. But then again, it's tricky. Some people go on this with a genuine interest in trying to find a partner, but other times you have parents who log on behalf of their kids. I mean, I've interviewed young women and also young men who have said, my mom has created this account for me on an online dating website, and she's hijacked it. She's chatting, to eligible men on my behalf. And when I read through the conversations, it gets quite awkward because, the way that she's going to talk to someone isn't necessarily the way I would. So you have this mix of technology and very old school word of mouth matchmaking that coexist in China.
And Roseann, are you finding that Chinese women who are focusing on their careers and waiting to get married, is that becoming more acceptable than simply being looked at as a trend?
I think their progress is being made. It's not incredibly quick progress, but I think parents slowly are realizing, and there's been a lot of, the SK2 campaign helped a whole lot. There's been a lot of press in Western media, and even Chinese media. You'll see op-eds in the China Daily and the Global Times and the All China Women's Federation, op-eds written by women who try to explain their situation. And I think parents slowly are realizing that, timelines are changing, and it also helps if their daughters are earning a good living, and if they're supporting themselves, and if they're managing to make good money, that helps to alleviate some of the pressure. Because, traditionally in China, marriage is about pooling together resources. The axiom that by which all marriages should be decided is mengdang hu dui, matching doors and matching windows. So this is sort of what guides what traditional matchmakers do, and it's to find families that have matching doors and matching windows. So a matching social class, socioeconomic class. And the idea is that you pair those together as a way of pooling resources. So as women achieve a bit more professionally and financially, that pressure comes off somewhat, but it doesn't quite disappear entirely.